And welcome back. It is the second of the month, higher plus 5 a day, and let's just jump straight in. Right, we have a cone, and then it says the total surface area of the cone is 48 pi. Now, without doing any maths, 48 pi makes me a bit happier. It means the pi's are going to cancel out. It just makes the calculation easier. This could probably be a non-calculated question. I haven't done it yet, but my guess is the numbers work out quite nicely. Let's remember the surface area is pi r squared, which is the base, the circle at the bottom, plus what's called pi r L, where L is a slopey line. Well, let's put the numbers in. So pi, well, radius is 4, so r squared is 16, so that's going to be 16 pi. And then pi times the radius, which is 4, times the slopey side, which is y. Well, that I can simplify down to 16 pi plus 4y pi. And I know that's equal to 48 pi, which means I've got one equation, one unknown I can solve. Let's move the 16 to the other side. So that gives me 4y pi is equal to, well, 48 minus 16 is 32, so 32 pi. I can cancel the pi's out, so let's do that. So cancel the pi's. Divide by 4, and that tells you that y is equal to 8. Go back, check the question. So the total surface of the cone needs to calculate y. Well, y is 8, or 8 centimeters, but 8 is the value of y. Next question. Shown is a graph of y equals f of x. So it tells me f of x, and I can see, I think it's trying to tell me that's the vertex, which is 7, minus 7, minus 4. Then it says a graph of f of x plus b has the minimum points. Okay, this is clever. I like this question. It's a reverse question to how it normally is worded, because normally you start at the origin and move it. Here I'm starting here, and I want to move it back to the origin. So in other words, I am going to, well, what did it say? So the graph of y equals f of x plus b has a minimum point. So in other words, what would I do to the equation to get it back to the origin? Well, I'm going to shift it by, think about how functions work. So I'm going to shift it by 7, but I'm going to shift it to the right. So I'm going to do the opposite. So it's minus 7. And then I'm going to move it up by 4. So I'm going to add 4. That's a good question. So in other words, A is minus 7 and B is 4. That's actually quite difficult. Next, it says sketch. Now I'm going to sketch it down here. What does this do? Well, actually, we had this yesterday, didn't we? So the minus afterwards turns all my pluses to a minus, all my minuses to a plus. So in other words, I'm going to take f of x, and I'm just going to basically do it upside down. And I'm going to recognize that my minus 4 becomes a 4, and my minus 7 is still a 7. Not too bad, that one. In fact, second transformations question in a row, which suggests to me we might get a few transformations. Next question. Shown is a right angle triangle, right? What do we know about right angle triangles? Well, we only really know two things, don't we? We know Pythagoras and we know trigonometry. And then it says find x. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to set up Pythagoras using the 3 sides. So I'm going to get a quadratic, solve the quadratic. So let's do this carefully. So therefore 2x plus 1 squared, the hypotenuse, is equal to the other side squared plus the other side squared. Expand carefully. So 4x squared plus 4x plus 1 is equal to x squared minus 4x minus is plus 4, plus x squared plus 10x, is that a minus? Yes, it is, plus 10x plus 25. Now let's collect everything on the left-hand side. So take away my x squareds, which gives me 2x squared. I've got 4x plus 4x is 8x, minus 10x is minus 2x. And I've got 1 minus 4 is minus 3, minus another 25 is minus 28. And that's equal to 0. Now I can divide everything by 2, can't I? So that's going to be x squared minus x minus 14 is equal to 0. Now, normally, if you watch my other videos, I will say something like, let's try and factorize. I definitely can't factorize this. I know the factors of 14 are 2 and 7, and 2 and 7 do not give me minus 1. So this is going to be a quadratic formula, isn't it? So quadratic formula over here. So therefore a equals 1, b equals minus 1, and c equals minus 14, which means that x is equal to minus 1, which is 1, plus minus the square root of 1, well, minus 1 squared is 1, minus is plus 4 times 14, and divide all that by 2 times 1, which is 2. Right, calculator out. So that's the same as 1 plus minus the square root of 56 over 2. Now, think about what I'm doing over here. Especially this one here is I'm taking my x value, I'm taking away 2, which suggests to me that my x is going to have to be greater than 2 because I can't have a negative length, can I? I also know 56 is about 7 when I square root it. So 1 minus 7 divided by 2 is a number that is less than 2. So therefore, I can't have this as one of my answers. Let's work them out anyway, just to show you. So calculator out, I've got 1 plus root 56 over 2. Calculator tells me that's 4.24. And then I'm going to change it to a minus. So I'm using the calculator functions to switch it over, which gives me minus 3.24. Now remember what I said. If I put minus 3.24 into here, that's minus another number, which is minus 2. That's a negative number. So therefore it cannot be that one because it's a negative, which means that x is equal to 4.24. What does it want me to do with it? So showing a right angle triangle, find x. I found x, there it is, which means I've done the question. Good, difficult, but again, as ever, not a terrible question. Next question, bearings, great. Right, ship A, this is a horrible little diagram, isn't it? So ship A is 100 kilometers on a bearing of 258. Right, so let's read that again carefully. Ship A is 100 kilometers from X, so this is 100, on a bearing of 258. So this is 258. Ship B is 75 kilometers from X, so we're both going from X, on a bearing of 312, which means that this angle here is going to be, well, it's going to be 312 minus 258, which is 54 degrees. And I need that one because that's inside the triangle. I'm also, just because I think I might need it, I'm going to work out this angle here, and that's going to be 360 minus 312, which is going to be 48. Now, what does it actually want me to do? Calculate the bearing of A from B. Now, I'm going to do this in red. So A from B is A from B, which means this is my north line, which means I need this angle here. Okay, I'm going to draw a slightly better diagram to help you. First thing I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to work out the angle at B, aren't I? Have I got enough information to do that? I don't, do I? Because I've got an angle, I've got a side, I need another angle. Okay, so I'm going to use cosine rule to work out the length of AB. So let's start by doing the length of AB, and then I'm going to draw a better diagram. So AB is going to be 75 squared plus 100 squared. So I'm using the triangle ABX. Minus 2 times 75 times 100, cosine rule, times cos of the angle in between, which I've just worked out to be 54. So that tells me that AB, and by the way, this is not an easy question. This tells me that AB is 82.5119. So let's write that out. 82.5119. Now, I'm going to draw the diagram over here because then you can see a bit more what I'm doing. So this won't be super accurate, but close enough. So there's my A, which is I'm given in the question. Actually, that's not my A, is it? A is at the bottom. So there's my B that I'm given in the question. There's my A. I've just worked out that this is 82.5119. Then again, I don't need to be super accurate, but let's kind of get it right. So up slightly. So there's my X, which is here. Now I know from the question that this was 100 and this was 75. And I've worked out that that's 54. And I'm trying to work out this angle here, aren't I? So it would be helpful. So I've got an opposite. I can use sine rule, show you what I'm doing. So I can use sine rule with the opposite here and the opposite here. So let's do the sine rule. So therefore, in order to work out, let's call it theta. So in order to work out, I'm going to say sine theta over the opposite, which is 100, is equal to sine of the angle I do know, which is 54, divided by the opposite to 54, which is 82.5119 that I've just worked out, which means that theta equals sine minus 1 of 100 sine 54 divided by 82.5119. This again is not a nice question. It's doable, but it's not nice. So use my fraction button, and that gives me 78.662 degrees. So in other words, I know theta is 78.6622 degrees. Let's go back to my first diagram because it's going to be quite hard to explain. I'm going to zoom in as much as I can. I want the red angle. I've worked out that this angle here is 78. The crucial thing is I know what this angle is because I know it is 180 minus 48, which is this 48 here because it's co-interior, and that's going to give me 132. Therefore, I know the red in two different parts. I know it's 132 plus the angle I've just worked out, which means my bearing, and again, I'm going to say this for the third time, this is not an easy question, which means my bearing is 132 plus 78.6, I could call it 78.7, which is 210.7 degrees. It was kind of going okay to that last question. Wasn't that first question not too bad at all? You need to know your surface areas and other calculations. The second question, transformation's a bit harder. That Pythagoras question, not too bad, but that last question was difficult. Well done if you got that. Do let me know how you went. Did you get that as well? And if you did, well done. Either way, like, subscribe. See you tomorrow.